Hello, friends. We're back again. It's Fightful Overbooked, and it's the weekend, so it must be time for the newsiest part of your week. It's Newsworthy. It's Joel Pearl, Jeremy Lambert. Neither of us are discussing the terms of our dismissal, so everything must be all right. How you doing, Jeremy?
Joel, I've gotten 3 hours of sleep. I've been listening to the new Taylor Swift album all day, which is my crack and cocaine. So I'm doing great. I'm fired up, Joel. Let's talk about wrestling.
Does Taylor Swift legitimately fire you up or fire anyone up? Like, I'm not a big Swiftie. I don't listen to a lot of her stuff. So are there tunes, especially on the new album, that maybe like get people pumped up?
There's ups and downs in the album. You know, a lot of more melancholy stuff. This one's got some bangers on it though. But just the music in general, it's a vibe, Joel. It makes you feel good that there's just new Taylor Swift music out, and that is the part that gets you fired up. Even if the songs might be a little bit somber, like just having new Taylor Swift music just puts you way up here.
That's fine. Come way up here with us and subscribe to the channel here at Fightful Overbooked. Drop a thumbs up. You know what to do. It's good to see our friends who are hanging out maybe in the comments section below. As always, we got 5 articles from the week that Jeremy wrote. They were either all over your newsfeed or maybe they just flew right by you. So let's dive right in and talk about it. Jeremy, are you ready?
I am ready.
Let's go. Number 5, Jim Ross comments on Ace Steel being released. Thought he did a nice job in AEW. Well, JR's talking about it, so obviously it's open season. We could talk about it. Ace Steel released from AEW this past week on Grilling JR. JR had that to say about Ace Steel and the job that he did in AEW. A solid hand, says JR. What say you, Jeremy Lambert?
So this was recorded right after Dynamite, I believe, like very early in the morning, because they touched on, and Dynamite was on a Tuesday this week, because they touched on Hangman's concussion as well. And JR wasn't at TV. He watched from home. So it was recorded, and then I think Dave reported the Ace Steel release like whenever the Observer audio comes out, which is West Coast, early, late, depending on where you're at. So it was recorded either Wednesday morning or very late Tuesday. And it's at the end of the episode, and Conrad brings it up. And I was just kind of shocked that there was comment at all, because we've sort of learned, like, hey, let's not touch on this stuff. And JR just doesn't really care. He's not getting fired or anything, I don't think, for commenting. It's not like he said anything wrong. He just said, like, didn't really work with him a lot, but from what I know, he did a nice job. Like, I hate to see anybody losing their job. It sucks. And that was that. He didn't touch on, like, the brawl or anything like that. He didn't talk about Ace Steel biting Kenny Omega or throwing a chair. He just said what Ace Steel sort of did at AEW, and that he thought he did a nice job. But as we've learned over the past few weeks, commenting on this subject at all seems taboo, because there's allegedly illegal or investigations ongoing, and now JR has implicated himself in this investigation by even making any type of comment, because you're only supposed to say no comment.
Did they interview Larry the Dog?
Apparently they didn't interview Larry the Dog.
It's quite upsetting. I think Larry would have plenty to say.
Maybe. I mean, he was there. He was running around the arena. It seemed like a premeditated attack by him. He was scoping out the entire arena, seeing where the best places were that he could run up and sneak attack somebody. So I feel like he does have more information than we're led to believe. That's
right. Nobody ever thinks about the dog, but the dog was running around. Maybe new Section 110.
Kenny Omega tried to think about the dog, and he got bit for his troubles.
That's right. So here's the biting question of the day. If you're Ace Steel, where would you end up next? If you're sticking around in wrestling.
At home? I don't know where he ends up. Like, who? No offense to Ace Steel, but like, ROH is run by Tony Khan. Impact maybe decides, like, hey, Impact loves all these old guys. They're giving him world title. Fuck, he could go to Impact, get a world title shot, honestly.
I don't think he'd be doing any in-ring. No.
Well,
okay, so 5 years ago, and we're pushing up around that time, Jimmy Jacobs was on his way out of WWE Creative because he took a selfie with the Bullet Club, and there was other things that led to his eventual release. And he would show up in Impact Wrestling, not before showing up first in Ring of Honor to take a photo with the Bullet Club, do a selfie spot with them. Ace Steel could end up in MLW, because if you want someone who's going to reinvigorate your entire career, Court Bauer would do it.
Ace Steel, your 2023 Impact World Champion.
My God, is he going to defeat? Who's he going to defeat? Bully Ray or Josh Alexander?
He's gonna beat Josh Alexander. He's gonna rip Alexander's gear off, his headgear, and bite his ear. And that's
I'm glad that you specified, because ripping his gear off would not be PG, brother. Let's move on. Speaking of Court Bauer, number 4. Court Bauer recalls the Lucha Bros not wanting to drop the MLW tag titles. Phoenix shooting on Davey Boy Jr. On the Masked Man show, Court Bauer made an appearance, was talking about quite a few things, but most notably this little tidbit about the Lucha Bros and the MLW tag titles and more shooting. Jeremy, talk.
It's a big topic, apparently. People, we're a month and a half after this thing, and these questions are still coming up, because that's how this question started, was, what'd you think of the CM Punk situation and it leading to an altercation? And Court gave his take on it of like, it never really happened backstage, but I've seen it in the ring before, where there was some heat, brother, and it turned into a shoot, brother. I just like his recollection of the story. He was like, if Phoenix just like threw some live rounds and Davey Boy, like, why would you want to do this to Davey Boy? Davey Boy just like took him down, and Penta's like, what the hell's going on here? Now I just want to rewatch this match and be like, all right, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens in this match here. Anytime, again, this is sort of similar to the Jim Ross thing of like, anytime like people touch on this stuff, it feels very taboo right now of, oh, you're not supposed to talk about shoots and everything. You're not supposed to talk about not everybody getting along. And so when people do tell stories like this, and again, this is not just some random wrestler who is out of the business or anything. This is the CEO of another company out there. And so when he's telling this story, it feels like a big deal to me. And that's why I wrote it. And that's why hopefully, people seem to enjoy it or picked up on it, or what the case may be. But yeah, like just an executive talking about this kind of stuff all feels very taboo, stemming from, we're only supposed to say no comment.
I love the line, I'm watching in the back, and when these kind of things go down, you're basically just sitting there with your popcorn.
He's like, if I ran out there, he's like, if I ran out there, by the time I get out there, it would have been handled. Like, so what am I supposed to do? Just let these guys handle it. And, if it's in the ring like that, because there was the other incident in MLW that did get out of hand, where the Parkas were shooting on people, right, and throwing chair shots and everything. Like, if it gets out of hand to a degree, then sure, maybe you got to come out there. But I guess he felt comfortable enough to where, all right, they're going to handle it. It's going to be that, and we'll deal with it. And if it's in the ring where there's a lot of witnesses and everything, you would think that it's going to be a little calmer than where apparently nobody is around and you can just kind of do whatever you want.
Yeah, typically the wrestlers can handle themselves if there's an incident in the ring like that. There's always one person who's just going to calm everyone down, especially in a tag match, and just settle everyone down and be like, hey, stop it. This isn't the place. We can do it later. I just found that really funny. Just the idea of Court sitting there like with a box of popcorn, just watching the match and be like, that's not supposed to happen. And just sitting there be like, what happens next? Anyway, yeah, it's a good article. Good write-up. I like that. Number 3, Caprice Coleman wasn't scheduled to call ROH Supercard of Honor. Ian Riccaboni pushed for him. Now, this is some nice news to talk about, because I quite enjoy Ian Riccaboni and Caprice Coleman when they're working together on commentary. I enjoy them when they're working separately on AEW programming, but really when those two are together, it's been kind of a special sauce with Ring of Honor. So this was Coleman talking to, who was he talking to? The podcast. There it is. Thank you. Go ahead. Talk to me about Caprice Coleman on the podcast.
Caprice Coleman's a really good interview, by the way. And I really like the work the podcast does. They get some, I don't want to say indie guys, but some like non-AEW WWE guys on their shows a lot. And they do a really good job. So check them out. Check out the podcast. I know the great Andrew Thompson has been a guest on that show before. So yeah, go check them out. And this interview with Caprice Coleman was really good. And this is as far as I know, the first time that he's told this story of, wasn't supposed to be part of this show. They apparently pitched Riccaboni on a couple other names, and Riccaboni was like, no, I want Caprice Coleman. And he got Caprice Coleman, and Caprice did a good enough job to where he's been back to doing the ROH matches for EW and everything. And this was a newsworthy item. This was like actual news, not just, hey, let me pop people with a headline or something like that. And it was really nice that Caprice and Riccaboni shared this story on their social media as well, and just put each other over Ian was like, Caprice is the best. Caprice is like, Ian's my brother. Like, it was nice that they put each other over on this. And it's just a heartwarming wrestling story, right? We opened with two stories where it's like, hey, let's talk about backstage brawls and in-ring brawls, everything. Like, there is a nice side to wrestling, and Rick Abani felt very strongly about wanting to work with Caprice Coleman. It got him. It worked out good for all parties, because now Coleman has a job in the AEW ROH brand. Rick Abani continues to do work there. And from what I've heard with Ian Riccaboni, I've had maybe one interaction with him, but from everybody else I've talked to who knows Rick Abani or spoken to Rick Abani, and even in my one interaction, the nicest guy in the world, just a great guy. So him pushing for Caprice Coleman does not surprise me in the least. And yeah, it was a good story. And shout out to those guys for sharing this and continuing to put each other over and show the good side of professional wrestling.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing with Ian. He is one of the more wholesome wrestling personalities out there, and very, very likable and also very knowledgeable. So he definitely deserves the praise that he gets. And when he brings someone along with him, like Caprice Coleman, and vice versa, they, like you said, they both complement each other in and out of the ring. They both complement and complement. If you get the idea of the words, they do well for each other, and that's really, really cool. So yeah, shout out to the podcast, shout out to Caprice, and we're glad to see them working together more with Ring of Honor for Ian and Caprice Coleman. Number 2, oh baby,
Chris Jericho doesn't kick the shit out of both of them.
He's already tried for one of them. I could see Caprice Coleman and Jericho having a standoff, although Caprice was never a Ring of Honor champion.
Caprice should shoot on him.
My God, Caprice Coleman versus Chris Jericho in 2023. That's your Ring of Honor super card main event.
Sure.
Jericho's going to be like, I didn't want you anyway. So let's go on to number 2. I'm over this. Bret Hart. Oh boy. Bret Hart says, I would have loved to work with Brock Lesnar. I heard he was a pro. The opposite of Goldberg. Bret Hart, there's one thing you can count on. So he'll give a good interview. They'll bury everyone, and then he'll bury Goldberg underneath everybody else. He was at K&S WrestleFest signing. I mean, you had to talk about this. So let's talk about Goldberg and his propensity for Goldberg Bret Hart and his propensity for Goldberg hatred.
He was putting people over. He was saying like, yeah, I wish I could have worked with like Danielson, and somebody I really want to work with was Brock Lesnar. And then he just throws in the shot at Goldberg because of course he does. And he put Ray over. He said he wished he would have worked with Ray and everything. So the shot at Goldberg it's hilarious because like is Bret Hart taking another shot at Goldberg really this big news item? Absolutely not. Does it do like huge social numbers and everybody quote tweet and everybody gets the bit and everybody likes it? Yes. And that's why when I hear it, I'm like, well, gotta write about it now. And it picked up. It does huge numbers because Bret taking shot at Goldberg it doesn't get old for a lot of people. Because the tweet is either going to be like, ha, Bret continues this bit, or Bret is bitter and just needs to let it go. But it doesn't get old for people. You're going to have a reaction to it one way or another. And I'm pretty sure, like, I know Bret doesn't actually like Goldberg. He's made that very clear. But I think he also knows that like people are just going to talk about it. And so I may as well just throw it in there because it's going to be buzzed about.
And shout out to the news writers and to the headline writers who understand that there's a difference between a bit like this and ones that are a little more hurtful, because this is one that absolutely it's well known, it's well established, it's not hurting anyone that Bret Hart and Goldberg don't get along, and Goldberg's not an active wrestler anymore, so it's not like you're really challenging anything in Goldberg's career at this point because his career is effectively done. So this works. It's just a bit that works. Also, I love the idea of Bret Hart versus Rey Mysterio. That would have been one hell of a program. That would have been cool.
Great.
Yeah, would have been all over that. Yeah, Bret Hart, once again, listen, if he's going to keep one bit going, I think that's the one to do, just until it's over. And it ain't over yet.
This is his one bit, right? Montreal might be the other bit, but everyone kind of knows what happened there.
I feel like he's just kind of got over it, and he was like, well, there's no use talking about that because I had a relatively successful career after that. It's just the person who ended my career is the person now at fault. It's no longer Vince's fault. It's now Goldberg's fault.
He's friends with Sean now too. Like they're on good terms.
They go to church together, I guess.
Yeah, at least on speaking terms.
Oh, that's fine. It's better than that's like you and I.
Yeah, I don't actually like you.
I get it. Number 1, MJF recalls getting drunk with Tracy Smothers after Smothers threatened to beat that ass. MJF talking to, is he talking to Nazi? He's talking to Sam Roberts again. This is from that Sam Roberts interview that we talked about last week. Yeah. Okay, cool. So this is from that same interview. I was going to be like, he told the story twice? No, he told it once to Sam Roberts here, and this was us covering it and following up on it. Talk to me, Tracy Smothers, MJF beating that ass on Sam Roberts.
All right, so it is the same interview that we talked about last week. We've already praised the interview and Sam Roberts and stuff, so I'm not going to go over that again. The reason I held off so long on this, one, is because there was just a lot of like quotes and stuff from this interview. Two, this story is not like a timely story. It didn't need to be out there to promote Dynamite or because he's talking about anything that's current day or anything like that. So I knew I could hold off on it for a while. This is so this is where I do my bit of giving tips to the news writers out there in case people want to enter into this field. If you get multiple stories out of an article, some of them you can hold off a little bit on if it's not like this super timely thing like this is. First off, the way he tells this story is great. I'm not going to do it justice with my spoken words here. I can't do it justice with my written words in the article. The way he tells the story, where he's like, so a guy named Tracy, and I called him old in a promo, and he messaged me on Facebook, all caps, "Listen here, you dumb motherfucker." And all I could reply was, "Sup." Just his delivery on this is so good. So good. And he's like, I didn't appreciate his tone. Even through text, I don't appreciate his tone. So I replied, all caps, like, "Quit being old."
It's not my fault you're old, he says.
It's so, the way he tells this story is so good. Like, everyone's going to praise MJF for his promos, and myself included. Like, he is such a good storyteller. His delivery and this stuff, and just the ride he takes you on with his words and his inflection is just top-notch stuff. So listen to the story first off. Like, go just seek out this story and everything. So here's more news writing tips. MJF says Tracy in this article, right? Never says Tracy Smothers. And he's asked about like beef with legends and stuff, if they have a problem with maybe what he says, if he's ever crossed the line or anything like that. He basically says, well, people who didn't like me are pretty much dead at this point, so whatever, who cares? I'm not even going to say their names. And RIP Tracy Smothers. But he just says Tracy. As a news writer, you have to research a little bit, and you can deduce, because he talks about it's in AIW and everything, you can deduce that it's Tracy Smothers, right? There's only so many Tracys out there in wrestling. There's only so many Tracys that wrestled at AIW. You can Google Tracy Smothers, MJF, AIW. There's a graphic for this match that was supposed to happen that never did. You can deduce that it's Tracy Smothers. But sometimes you don't just want to throw, especially when it's social media and when MJF is out there. And if I put an article out there that says Tracy Smothers and MJF wants to quote tweet it and be like, "Never said Tracy Smothers, dumb motherfucker. It was Tracy so-and-so. Like, get your story." Like, MJF's the type of person that's going to do that shit, right? And there's a lot of wrestlers that will do that stuff if it's not 100% clear who they are talking about. So I messaged John Thorne, owner of AIW, and I was like, hey, MJF tells this story. He mentions Tracy. I just want to confirm that it was Tracy Smothers. Like, I know it is, but like, can you just give me some confirmation here? And John Thorne messaged me back, and he tells me like the legit story. He said MJF's story is true. Like, Tracy wasn't happy that he called him old, but it was also, they were on a Black Friday show, and Tracy Smothers, after years of not spending time with his family because he was on the road and everything, decided, hey, I want to spend time with my family and do this. Like, don't book me for the Black Friday show anymore. It's Thanksgiving. I want to be with my family. So MJF wrestled Swoggle. I was just looking for confirmation that it was Tracy Smothers. He gives me more backstory on this. And this is the importance of researching, reaching out to people, and you might stumble along more information than you were originally looking for these stories. So MJF tells a great story. I thought I did a very good job of filling in some gaps and filling in a part of the story that wasn't there and completing the story. And I thought it was a great article.
Sometimes, honestly, you're not just writing news. Sometimes you can dig deep. Sometimes you can investigate. There's nothing wrong with that. I like the idea that you did a little digging just to make sure that you can shore up the background of the story being told. I think that's good. Listen, I think that's great advice. I think it's something that a lot of news writers need to take into account. So good. Thank you for that. That's it.
I tell the Fightful news writing team as much context as possible. Like, beat people over the head with context, dates, events, names, whatever kind of information you can provide in the article, because this is going to sound very mean, but if you get it, you get it. People are stupid. They don't understand. They might not understand something. They might not know something. They might not know when something occurred or what something might mean. So add as much context and information as possible so there are no gaps in your information. And so you give them all the information instead of half-assing and only writing like part of the story, or not giving full information, or just doing a bare bones article. Like, put some depth and some detail into these news articles and just have some pride in that kind of stuff. That is what I want to cultivate when it comes to news writing.
And absolutely, you can't assume that everybody has the same knowledge base as you do, or that everyone is on the same playing field when it comes to the wrestling fandom or how long they've been a fan. You're right. The most context you can give is going to lead to the most well-read fan, and I think that's very important to keep in mind.
And that's just basic news, right? Like, if somebody wins a championship, your article is not just going to say so and so won the championship. Okay, who did they beat? When did they beat them? How did they beat them? And then add extra context of, like, is this the person's first reign, second reign, third reign? How long was the previous champion the champion for? Maybe how they earn a title shot. Like, throw in as much in there as you can, because you're like I've said, like you just said, you can't assume everybody just knows all of this stuff. And even if everybody knows all of this stuff, because we're all online wrestling fans and we get it, sometimes people forget, or just having more information is better on this stuff. As long as your information is correct, don't be stupid and write wrong information or half-ass information. Get the correct information out there. But the more stuff, depth, detail you can put in these news articles, the better your articles look.
Pleasantly worded. I agree. I think we can get out of here on that positive note. Jeremy Lambert, what are we going to plug? Fightful Overbooked. What else?
Taylor Swift Midnights. Go stream, download, buy now. It is great. Watch the Midnights stream that I did with Cher Delaware, Caden, the Cease Twins, Sean Ross Sapp with live reporting. We had Vinny Massaro, Denise Salcedo, Jonathan Alba, and Shaza McKenzie, all via speakerphone, giving their thoughts on the album. It was really fun. We recorded it at 1 a.m. after listening to the new album. Go listen to that. It's on Fightful Overbooked, and just Fightful Overbooked.
Was it really that long?
Was what that long?
Was the stream really that? Oh no, it was an hour. But did you really have all those people?
Yeah.
Hot damn. I might go check this out. You guys ran it at like
fun.
1 in the morning. I was ready to bet.
Yeah, I know. I saw your message in there. It was like, you guys are up at 1. You guys are crazy. SB3 was in the chat too early on, and then you guys weren't there afterwards because you slept like cowards. Unlike me, who stayed up until 3 a.m. for the chaos version, for the 3 a.m. version of Midnight. Listen to that. Didn't go to bed until 4. Had to get up to take the kids to school. And now I'm here because I'm high, smoking that Taylor Swift music, Joel Pearl.
Is the chaos version a New Japan version?
No. Fuck that.
I like Okada. Tanahashi.
When you said that, I immediately thought of like Evil, and then I was like, oh wait, he's not a part.
That's House of Torture. What's wrong with you? That's the greatest staple of all time in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Anyway, let's get out of here. Fightful Overbooked, go and subscribe to us here. Apparently, it's our channel's birthday, so happy birthday to us. Did like the first incarnation, not Overbooked. That's in the new year. Do you want anyone to follow you anywhere?
Nope.
Great, wonderful. I am at Joel Pearl, JOELPEARL. Ladies and gentlemen, friends beyond the binary, we'll see you in the next one. Tim and Joel is Sunday at noon Eastern. That's my plug. Bye.